YouTube? This is Charlie426, and today we have the review of a HGUC Rick Dia's Quattro colors. Now, despite I call it Quattro colors, on the box of the HGUC kit, it doesn't really mention that. It's just said Rick Dia's. Even the model number, MS number is exactly the same as the black version because in terms of the specs, I believe it's the exact same wolf suit. It's just colored in red. Now, I got this some time ago. I was just literally feeling bored and decided to get this and build it. So this was one of those like impulsive purchases that I sometimes do. Okay, now once again, this is a very old kit. Now, this came out later, after the black Rick Dia's, but being the exact same model kit, the original Rick Dia's was one of the first early HGUC kits. So there's a lot of limitations. There's a lot of stuff that's really limited. So this isn't the greatest kit of all, but I would say it should have been pretty impressive for its time. Anyway, let's get on to the review. So I'm gonna get rid of the stand and I'm gonna show you guys what you get. Now, first of all, what you get, of course, is some leftover polycaps, as usual. And once again, the interesting aspect of the kit is that you don't get any stickers. Yes, this is a stickerless kit, so that's another. I guess that's a pretty impressive, aspect of the kit for its time. Equipment-wise, well, here is what you get. Of course, you get the mobile suit as well. The Rick Dia's itself, you get one beam saber. Oh boy, you get one beam saber hilt and one beam saber effect. Yeah, the beam saber effect was actually on the A plate, so they were able to give only one, and green. You get the clay bazooka. This is not the exact same version as the the revived version from we saw in the Hakushiki, I believe, and it's also gray. Light gray, and you get the beam pistols. You get two of them, and all these weapons, except for the beam saber effect, can be stored in or stored on the kit. Alright, now let's get on to the review. Now, I believe the master grade version does provide some differences between the red version and the black version, which I believe I've seen like a master grade review from Jabman, which he shows that the Quattro version provides a lot of option parts for like thrusters here and there. Okay, beyond that, let's start with the review. Now, let's go on with the head. Now, once again, I kind of feel like the Rick Dia's was kind of one of the more, how should I say, powerful or pretty useful mass production type mobile suits. Of course, that's just me thinking that way, but yeah. Another interesting aspect is that the code name for Rick Dia is called Gamma Gundam. So there's been a lot of I've seen a lot of people argue regarding this topic, whether this is a Gundam, but the outside doesn't look like it, or it was supposed to be a Gundam, but it did not make it to that point. But whatever, I'm not here to make that argument. I just want to mention that interesting aspect. Okay, now let's get on to the review. Now the head. These are one of those few mobile suits in the Universal Century where you have to pilot the mobile suit inside the head. So that's why you see this aspect here. Of course, it doesn't open. Now the head is literally on a peg. So a 360 twist seemed to be possible, but not really because it's so big that it collides with the side parts. So once again, as you can see by the design, it does not have any other movement other than twisting left and right. However, there is one more aspect where, if you know the Rick Dia's, it has a Vulcan inside in its head, so you can pull this out and reveal the Vulcan pods. Now, that I say is a pretty impressive feature. And also, the mono eye is actually a clear green piece. Now, if you want to be more accurate, I believe you have to do some panel lining on the eyes as well, but yeah. So we've seen the head now. As you can see, these parts will fall off pretty easily if you're not too careful, and I forgot to remove a nub mark over there, or nub piece. Okay, now let's look at the shoulders. Now the shoulders, despite its age, it did have the early moving forward and backward aspect. Yeah, so that I say that's pretty impressive for its time. However, other than that, the rest is kind of meh. So you have the forward and backward movement. The shoulder can move by itself like that, and then can go about 90 degrees. The arm itself can go 90 degrees to the side and has your typical 360 twist on the arm as well. However, the bend itself is only a 90-degree bend, and 360 twist on the entire arm might be tricky because you have these. Yeah, these things are called random binders. I don't know why what's with the name, but yeah, because of the extra binders on the back, 360 twist, I wouldn't recommend it. Also, another interesting about is the hands. Now the hands are ball joints, so nothing too special on that. But the hands, you have a moving trigger finger like that. Of course, that's the only moving finger of the kit. So yeah, I've kind of found that a little bit interesting because I haven't seen these in other kits. I mean, I've seen these in really old HG kits, but yeah. Other than that, yeah. Okay, now let's look at the main body first. The body is connected to a peg. Um, so a 360 twist, once again, I wouldn't recommend it because it collides with all sorts of parts. So yeah, and no app crunch. I don't think app crunch kits existed at the time. Now let's get the backpack. The backpack pretty interesting. Well, not interesting, but a lot of stuff going on. Now you have these pegs for the beam pistols that could be stored in. You have this section right over here where you can latch the clay bazooka on here. So yeah, you have to either you can latch in on any other side. So it's really your choice. And the random binders do move if you want to do so. And a little bit thrusters on the bottom section, and you have this section right over here where you can store the beam saber hilt only. Of course, you gotta slide it in, so it's not like the clipping style. And this is actually not black; it's actually more of a brown color, believe it or not. Okay, now let's look at the waist section. The waist section, nothing too special. Of course, if I had to point out something that was interesting is that now usually when you're making the front skirt these days, they give you like a single piece or a double piece, and then you put it on the middle, and then put a cover piece on top of it, so these would be stay still or stay in position. These ones just go into the side. You just plug these, or these are ball joints, so you just plug them in onto the inside of the waist. And that's it, and it works pretty well. Of course, the movement of the front skirt is kind of awkward, but yeah, it works. And the side skirt moves only a little bit. The back skirt does not move. Well, sort of jiggles around, but that's not usually supposed the case. So that's not like an official articulation thing. Okay, now let's look at the legs. The very big, gigantic legs and feet, which I do like about that. Well, the legs, obviously, 90 degrees to the front, and then less than 90-degree bent. Of course, considering the age of this kit and design of the kit, I guess that's not too surprising. Alright. Now, and the feet are your typical ball jointed feet, but yeah, because it's so big that it doesn't have that much movement as well. Okay, now let's look at its equipment. Now let's look at the beam pistols. Now the main issue I had with this kit is the holding its own weapons issue. Number one, the beam pistols, these parts on the back, that's the part where it actually collides. Now you have a left and right, of course, however, it doesn't really matter whichever side you take. It's gonna collide here, so I'm not sure what they were intending. Maybe you have to hold it like this, or you gotta do that thing where in anime or art style drawing, it's always like the arm is positioned like this, and it's able to bend forward for some reason. But yeah, either way, I guess this could work, but still not the best connection because it's still jiggly, even with the extra trigger finger holding it. Yeah. But anyway, besides that, you can now store the beam pistols. I believe this is how it works. Now I could be doing the other way around, but yeah, I think it's the other way around. Yeah, you can basically clip onto those pegs on the backpack, and there you go. You store the beam pistols, and they can move a little bit forward and backward. Since I believe in some, I remember seeing in Gundam Evolve, I believe, it did actually show the Rick Dia's firing from these from the back without actually holding it. So that's another interesting aspect of the mobile suit. Okay, now let's look at its clay bazooka. Nothing too special, just snap two pieces together, and once again, same issue. Now the extra trigger finger hand does actually help hold the bazooka well. Problem is, it's not that easy. So usually what I do is just force jam it in, and there you go. This is the best I could do usually because the back section of the clay bazooka is colliding with the random binders. So because of that, this really how should I say, limits the pose with the weapons and holding it. So yeah, trying to move it still collides. So yeah. Then again, it's an old kit, so I'm not gonna complain. Once again, I would love to see a revived version of this kit just to see like how much difference or changes they would apply and just like how much articulation this thing could have. Because for me, like the Rick Diaz or Gelgu, I don't have like, for example, I don't expect it to have like a lot of articulation because due to their designs, they're pretty bulky. So I usually consider them like to have less articulation. But yeah, if this were to come out as a revive, I would love to see like how it would be. And now for the clay bazooka, the handle does not fold as well. As mentioned, you can either clip on left or right onto this section right over here. And there you go. You stored all 3 weapons. And then for the beam saber, holding the beam saber is pretty much no problem at all. It just slide it in. Of course, it's kind of jiggly in there, but it still works pretty well. And then for the storage, you have to take this part out. So it's basically, if you can, yeah. Sorry about that. It's one of those beam sabers. Now, because it's been a while since I built this, I might have like forgotten like a few small stuff regarding the details. Now, you gotta slide this thing in, and there you go. I'm not sure if the master grade is like also like a sliding gimmick or it's just a clipping gimmick, but yeah. And there you go. You have stored all weapons on the kit. So that's another aspect I kind of do admire, but yeah, despite its looks, there's a lot of limitations on the kit, and despite its bulky look, for its height, it's pretty standard for a high grade. I mean, yeah, a little bit taller than the standard high grade, but yeah. Anyway, that was the review for the HGUC Rick Diaz. Once again, this is a very old kit, so you don't have too much expectations from the kit as well. If you're planning to get this and maybe customize it or modify it to make it more modern, that would be a really good challenge. Once again, thank you for watching the review. I still have more kits to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.